Woohoo.
All right. Hello and welcome to this morning's webinar. Learn about FAFSA completion reports. This is part of our MEFA Institute. My name is Jennifer Bento-Pinion. I'm Director of K-12 Services here at MEFA, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. I'd like to introduce our esteemed presenter, Nyal Fuentes, College and Career Readiness Coordinator at DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We have a full agenda of topics today, and Nyal will specifically share the importance of the Edwin Analytics reports and how they can help your school and your students. So if you have any questions during this session, please drop them in the Q&A. We'll bring them forth to Nyal. We are recording this session and we'll share the slides and the recording. So if you have to leave early, no problem. Also, this one other thing, this session is eligible for one PDP. So the link to the evidence of learning form will be in our follow-up email as well. All right, so we'll turn it over to Nyal. Take it away.
All right, thank you very much, and welcome everyone to this lovely Thursday morning after yesterday's downpours, at least across most of the Commonwealth. I'm Nyal, I work at DESE, and I'm here to walk through a bunch of our FAFSA stuff that we own. So at the beginning, in full disclosure, I looked this morning and the FAFSA tool in Edwin is not live. I'm expecting it very soon, hopefully tomorrow. There is what they call ICER data, which is data that comes from USED, US Department of Education, and gets sent into mass aid, where that's how we start to distribute financial aid, and that information goes out to schools and colleges, etc. So data is there. I imagine it's the matching mechanism that's taking place. So hopefully tomorrow or Monday, we will have actually data live in the tool. And I apologize for that. We scheduled this initially, MEFA and myself, hoping that the tool will be live and you could look at it. We wouldn't just be helping you to have like on theory, but actually reality here. So it is coming very soon, and much sooner than last year, which was like March or something like that. Or maybe it was even May before the tool was live because of all the problems with the feds. As you probably know, FAFSA is live and kids are applying for, kids and adults, potential college students and college students are applying for FAFSA. I'm going to talk a little bit about FAFSA. I'm assuming that everyone in this room kind of has a knowledge of FAFSA, but want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Talk a little about the state financial aid overview. These first two, I'm basically just giving you some information. I'm not an expert on the state financial aid overview. These are Department of Higher Education slides. They're great. They give a lot of information. We know that each individual student has a lot of different issues and challenges sometimes facing their applications. So it's always going to be good to dig in with our OSFA partners who are state financial aid director. But I wanted everyone to kind of information about the good news that we're bringing about a lot of financial aid being available, particularly for low-income kids in the Commonwealth. The things I am expert on, as much as anyone else, these last two that you see on this slide, I hope everyone sees these slides, around FAFSA completion and data review, around kind of looking back to see what it looks like, some of the good news and bad news around FAFSA completion, and then the Edwin reports, which I will go through. And those are hopefully, again, tomorrow or Monday will be live. You can jump in and see which kids have already completed FAFSA, which is great news considering it's mid-December. And we can start to really catch up on getting kids to have access and opportunity to state and federal financial aid resources. I'll also talk a little bit about MEFA and tuition equity. Again, not an expert, but very important as far as our students who might not be eligible to file for FAFSA for a lot of different reasons are eligible for state financial aid. So I will go briefly over a lot of stuff. There'll be a tornado of information, and you can always contact me, or in the case of financial aid specifically, OSFA folks, to get more info. And there are some people here, a lot of people in this room are looking at this list who know more than I do about this topic. My Drake-it friends, particularly. So again, FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. We use it pretty much for all federal aid and also for state aid to determine eligibility. Supposedly it's been improved. I'm in FAFSA zone right now with my senior daughter, trying to get this done, getting the FSA ID. A lot of it is pretty easy for people who kind of have all their financial stuff in order. For other families, it's very challenging because you have, there's a lot of challenges with a parent being here and a parent being there. Some parents might be undocumented, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very complicated for some people, very easy for others. We know that cost continues to be a barrier for a lot of our students to access post-secondary education, and particularly for students who are going for the first time. And we know that parents who and families who see things like a $35,000 bill for UMass, and it's more money than they've ever earned in a year in their life, it can be very daunting. And of course, we want to talk to families about the availability, particularly for low-income families, of a lot of state and federal aid for them to um, get into their higher education opportunities. And we'll talk about community college as well in a second. It really is the most important step you can do about paying for college, other than being born a millionaire. So as far as getting the aid necessary to fulfill all your educational hopes and dreams, this is critical. And I'm happy to take questions along the way. These are pretty basic ones, but oops, so what's FAFSA? So I think the Commonwealth has made a lot of, and this is Department of Higher Ed slides here, we've made a lot of progress in making our schools more affordable. As you know, Massachusetts in-state tuition is probably one of the highest in-state tuitions in the country, tuition and fees, because we know tuitions are low, fees are high. So traditionally in the past 10, 15, 20 years, Massachusetts public education has been pretty expensive compared to if you were born in other states. We've made some real progress. We have tuition and fee-free community college now. We'll talk about this for a second. Mass Grant Plus and Mass Grant Plus expansion has made college much more affordable, particularly for low-income and low-middle-income students. The tuition equity law and MASFA have opened the door for a lot of students who have lived here a long time, been residents of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for years, and not had access to financial aid. And we even have kids who didn't even know they were undocumented until they get to this point. I mean, you might have had kids like this until they were trying to fill out FAFSA and get aid for college, and kind of seeing their hopes and dreams kind of extinguished because they didn't have proper documentation to receive federal financial aid. So a little bit about that. This is the number. I mean, this is an amazing thing. If you look at this very simple bar chart, over double the amount of financial aid for the state that's been applied here. Again, as a relatively state that gave relatively low amounts of state financial aid, really huge increases in this. And again, this is thanks to the so-called millionaires tax, where these funds are coming from. So we're hoping, I think the idea is that for FY26 and beyond, is that even if kind of revenues kind of decline, hopefully this millionaires tax will be able to keep up this funding for state financial aid. But again, huge increases thanks to the legislature and new administration, who really showing the value of public education. Again, free community college is the big piece, right? So for a lot of kids, and I think we did a previous webinar, if you were in that before, about the idea of undermatching and making sure kids are making the best decision for themselves. A lot of times people see something for free and they're like, I'm going to take that because it's free. It might not be the best thing for you, but for a lot of students, and certainly our seniors going into college, but certainly also adult students, the idea that they can enhance their skills, move towards an associate's degree, certificate, and even a bachelor's degree with transfer, income is not a factor for these students. So again, for your students who are, and there's a lot of middle-class students who feel they could never attend a four-year college and pull that bill, excuse me, could be bull too. But so we really need to educate our students to realize that if this is, this is one of your options that you have about attending college, and having no tuition or fees that are involved in that attendance. There'll be books and transportation and housing, things of that nature, but everything else is covered. So this is a great opportunity for a lot of students. Mass Educate is what's called. I don't have to necessarily read the slide. The real one important thing I want to talk about Mass Educate, because we went back and forth on this for a while, and I didn't understand it. It is what's called last dollar financial assistance. So it's not like they're just giving you free community college and then you get to keep your Pels, and you get to keep, if you get SEOG or whatever you get. It's after you use up those Pels, etc., then it becomes the last dollar. They make sure that it costs you nothing out of pocket to attend that. So it's really important to inform students here that they're not going to be able to keep their, I can't remember, is it 5,000 Pels? I apologize, I can't remember, it'd be a little more, is the maximum. They're not going to be able to just keep that money and use it for housing and transportation, etc. So they might still have to look for federal aid to help to, fill in the gaps, maybe even loans in some cases. But it is a huge, huge movement in affordability for a lot of our students. Again, here's some more about free community colleges. I'm a Cape Cod Community College graduate, so I, put these fellows in here. It kind of gives you a little indication. And I think that Jennifer will send these slides and PDFs to folks. If not, you can contact me and I'll send them to you. But this is some good information about what it looks like. And again, all community college websites have very good information about this. I've heard rumors it's 10 and 15% enrollment increases after years of kind of decline in enrollment increases and decreases in community colleges. So this is a great movement across the Commonwealth, both for our colleges, for our students, and for the local economies, because kids who go to, not just kids, excuse me, I guess, students who go to community colleges tend to stay in that area, get higher paying jobs, pay more taxes, everything good happens. So this is an amazing movement in kind of the, educational structure of Massachusetts about affordability. Again, there's some differences in Mass Reconnect, which tends to be for older students. I'll be honest with you, I don't understand the difference in Mass Connect and Mass Reconnect and Mass Educate. Let's just say for a student, it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter how old you are. It's probably how they're funding it. And again, I'm going to defer to OSFA, Office of Student Financial Aid, if you want any details or what this looks like on the policy. I just want to focus on the student-facing piece of this and the affordability for those folks. Expanding Mass Grant Plus, so going beyond community colleges. We're talking about free tuition and fees at all institutions of higher education for low-income students. Enormous, right? We know also here, and I just want to put, I'm always, let's put out the caveat and go away with the propaganda. But for these 4-year schools, you're still not to pick up room and board. So there's going to be some use of federal aid to probably cover that and that type of thing. And that's available at all 9 state universities and the 4U Mass campuses, or 3 plus, actually 3, but because we don't count Worcester, because I don't think kids are going right to medical school. So this is a great opportunity for 4 years. So for your students who have heard the kind of news and stuff about community college, but they really have worked hard and they want to go into this program, and it just happens to be at Bridgewater State, encourage them to do that, because it will be affordable for those students. And the loans, even though they do take loans for room and board, are going to be much lower than they were, 5 years ago when their older brothers or sisters might have been going. Again, more information on this, I'll send the slides to you. We're supporting all full and part-time Pell eligible kids. You're encouraged to complete, you have to do the FAFSA, you have to do the MEFA. So there were cases, a friend of mine is I don't know if she's on this call, no, a community college financial aid person in Western Mass, and she said kids were just walking up thinking like, where's my free community college, and wanting to sign up for classes. They still have to do MASFA or FAFSA, usually FAFSA in most cases, by the financial aid deadline. So make sure that your kids are keeping track of what those dates are and when those eligibility pieces. Because again, a lot of these state schools are also giving merit scholarships and other things beyond this. So important to pay close attention to this to kind of put together the best package for students available. Expansion, again, this talks about giving more money to kids who aren't low income, but are kind of low middle income. But again, really pay attention to what's going on if you're looking at the SAI and that type of information about who might be eligible for this level of financial aid. All right, switching gears here real quickly, talking about tuition equity. I think most of you probably have heard about the tuition equity law. We know we're entering this tuition equity law in a time of uncertainty at the federal level. But this is a state law, and this is access to state financial aid. So this is the whole idea that the law carves a pathway for in-state tuition rates, which is huge, because a lot of these kids are paying international rates in the past, not even out of state. And state financial aid for certain non-US citizens, including undocumented students. The caveat here, again, these are students who've lived here 3 years or more, and they're in a high school diploma or GED high set in the Commonwealth. This is a very important piece. So this is not going to apply to your newcomer students. And I don't know what type of carve out there will be for those students in the future, but you have to have been here for 3 years or more. This is kind of the intent, I think, politically, and I shouldn't speak politically because I work for government, but I will, is that they wanted to kind of reward kids and families that have lived here for a long time, gone to high school. Again, some of these kids not even knowing they were undocumented until it got to this point. So this is a huge move on part of the Commonwealth. Other states have done this, including big states like Texas, have done this type of thing, and we finally moved in this direction. You can see a little bit of numbers. The numbers weren't huge last year, but still, that's 500 students who were Massachusetts public school students who had access to state financial aid. Again, not federal, but state financial aid. There's a slight delay in MASFA. Don't panic. That has nothing to do with what's happening politically. It really has to do with FAFSA being a little later, and they basically build the MASFA tool, meaning Regions, who's the company who does this, based on what that FAFSA looks like. So hopefully that all makes sense. A little bit more about what a high school completer is, and there's an affidavit involved that you have to do. I found all these cool pictures of people to make things a little cooler. So that's basically what the special law is in a nutshell. This is a little bit about the MASFA. Again, it's available right now in English and Spanish. This is how you get into it. It looks like the FAFSA. And anyway, you can read the slide, but this is kind of what's happening. And again, it's for kids who cannot do FAFSA for the most part. All right, any questions here before I actually start talking about stuff I know about? No. All right, either nobody cares about me or I'm doing an amazing job. Surprisingly, the FAFSA compared to last year's sort of disaster, and it remains to be seen what this year will be. FAFSA window actually opened about 6 days earlier than they said it was going to open, 5 or 6 days. Many students or families have already done FAFSA. Again, we did see some, I didn't see it, a colleague of mine saw some of the data in something called Snowflake, which is a database. So we know the data is flowing. It's just not in the tool yet. So it should be in there pretty soon. So we know kids have completed FAFSA. My daughter has not finished it, which is not good since I'm talking about the other 70,000 seniors in the Commonwealth, but not my own. But this is happening and people are interested. A lot of times when we talk about our FAFSA tool, our FAFSA report, there's an Edwin, we know that there's certain kids, kids that have already been accepted to college. My daughter's been accepted to colleges already. Her friends have gotten their first choice colleges in an early decision. So we know those kids are going to do FAFSA, they're on top of it, etc. The real power of the FAFSA report is going to talk about those kids who may not complete FAFSA, don't know what FAFSA is, are kind of, are struggling to put everything together because it gets complicated for some families for a lot of different reasons. So that's really where the FAFSA tool is going to be valuable. I do want to go a little bit over, we have seen real drops both in college enrollment, and again, this is last year, not this year. This year in 2024, September, we're actually seeing increases because of, I think, free community college and that type of thing. And college attendance. We've seen drops in college attendance. We've seen drops in FAFSA completion. The two kind of go along each other. They are concordant. But the real thing that strikes me is the students who could benefit most, low-income kids who can, really benefit the most from FAFSA and get the most aid. Only a little over a third of those students are completing FAFSA. About, again, 51%, it changes a little bit every day because there'll be a few more kids every day, even completing last year's FAFSA. And it's, again, for non-low income kids, pretty high levels still. So really thinking about this longitudinally, we always like to show information longitudinally. We had a little bit of a drop during COVID in 2020 for obvious reasons, but we really haven't recovered that much. In fact, we've dropped since 2020 again. So this is something we're really trying to pay attention to. We know that fewer kids are going to college, a smaller percentage and a lower number. You have a lower percentage, plus you have fewer students who are seniors. There's a decline in public school enrollment as well. So really trying to pay attention to this and really focus on equity and our student groups that could benefit from this the most. Similarly for race ethnicity, Latino students are the fastest growing population in the Commonwealth. And you'll see a real drop here. Excuse me. In 2017, it was kind of like the high point of Latino college attendance, and it really has dropped a bit. And again, FAFSA kind of runs concordantly with that as well. And you'll see here, I'm not sure how to explain this Asian drop in FAFSA completion. I haven't really studied that much. I checked it 3 times to see if it was right, and it was right. And I would like to know what the heck is going on with that piece there. But again, generally lower rates of completion, something that the Commonwealth would definitely want to turn around. We want more kids going higher ed for a lot of different reasons. We want baccalaureate students. We want kids that are going to go on beyond baccalaureate. We want kids getting certificates from community colleges and highly needed skills across Commonwealth. There's lots of different reasons that we need FAFSA to complete. And again, FAFSA completion doesn't mean you have to go to college. It just gives you that opportunity. So we want to see kids even say, even though they're saying, no, I don't think I'm going to college, miss. It's like, well, it doesn't hurt you because you might decide in July that you want to go to North Shore Community College and do HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. I don't even know if they have HVAC, but just pretend that they do. They want these skills and they want to go, and then, mama doesn't want you staying in the basement unless you are in school. And there's lots of different reasons that kids should do FAFSA. It just gives them the opportunity to do so. And again, looking at this one, race, ethnicity, if we're thinking of equity, for our Black and Latino students particularly, this is something that really hits us in the head pretty closely and wants us to do better. And I did some other disaggregations because people always want to know. We know that boys are, as far as higher education go, are in trouble. They're not going to college. Those rates have really dropped here, and some of these gaps are kind of nutty. And again, I could do all sorts of disaggregations. I could do low income Hispanic male EL and whatever, but there would just be a lot. You can do this, and when we get into the Edwin tool, and the reason I put the source here for the Edwin tool is that you can do this in your own district, right? You can look at this information to be like, oh, wow, none of our Black males did FAFSA. Let's talk to a local group of African-American professionals. I'm just making this up. We're going to come in and talk to our boys about college and that type of thing. So really thinking about this, and without people who talk about equity, we really can't have equity without looking at these data. All right, on to the tool. Any questions on our presentation here? Nope. All right. Well, I guess we're going to fly through this presentation and get back to our days. So this is the most important part to me as far as level of expertise. Again, hopefully live tomorrow or Monday. There's a link in this presentation which we'll send to you that kind of is a description of everything I talked about today. So if you want to show it to your principal or other counselors to get a general view of what it is, I think a lot of times people come to a webinar like this and they have this information, they get excited. Then they're just like, well, how do I explain this to Dr. Ruiz, our principal, about what it is. So this little 2-page, just a 3-page description FAFSA tool can be helpful. Essentially, there are 2 different reports in Edwin Analytics. You need Edwin access from your district. The department, my department, cannot give you access to these tools. It's up to the district to give you access to Edwin. It's through the security portal. I'll show you something in a second about that. And also to give you what's called administration level. I know that's a bad choice of words, but administration level means that you can look at student level data, or what data people would call PII, personally identified information. That it's really essential that you have that level because you want to see the individual students that have completed or not completed FAFSA. There's administrator, your data person is going to say to you, we can't give you that because you'll see teacher evaluations. It's not true. There's 2 different versions. There is a administration version that you have student level access, and there's one that you have evaluation access. If you don't need evaluation access in Edwin, don't give it to you. But you can look at that, and I can send a link to anyone who's having a problem. Contact me and I'll send you to the page that talks about Edwin, what's called Edwin security roles. These data are, they're taken from USED, so the FAFSA people in DC get the information from students and their families filling it out. They send it to the Commonwealth, specifically the Department of Higher Education. And one of the issues, and I'll talk about this a little bit, with the matching is we have what are called SASs, student identifiers. They have social security numbers. We do not have social security numbers in any of our systems. So the match between, I'm going to talk about this a couple of times, so don't worry about it right now. The match is sometimes imperfect. We're not capturing every student who completed FAFSA. Some of the students will have completed it. We can do a match on the names. I'll talk about that in a later slide. But we get up to like 95 to 97% of students in the match. You'll never have a case of a false negative where a student didn't complete FAFSA and it says they did. It'll be the other way around. A student will have completed FAFSA and it'll say they didn't. So you don't have to worry about, the only thing that's going to be wrong is you got to chase down a kid who has already completed FAFSA and they're going to be like, miss, I already did it. But if you're talking to a kid more than once, it's pretty much okay, at least for you, maybe not for them. The data will be updated once you get started. We'll probably be updated multiple times weekly. So there tends to be a week drag between a student and their family doing their FAFSA, and it's showing up in the report. So if a student did their report, and sometimes students don't have a good relationship with time. It's like, oh, we just did that 3 weeks ago, and it was actually, Friday. Just remember that it will eventually be in there, and it moves on pretty quickly. This is kind of what it looks like, and I'm going to show you something in our test environment, which is imperfect, but we'll show you a little bit about what the information looks like. I just think it's easier that way. But this is what Edwin looks like. This is my friend Kate's slide. You sign into the security portal, you have to verify your identity. They'll make you verify the code, and then boom, you're going to go into Edwin Analytics. You're not going to Edwin Analytics training. You're not going to see your kids' information. Use the Edwin Analytics link, and it will take you to something that looks like this. You can use the search box and search for FAFSA, or you can search for CR 307 or 607. And you can hit on what it says high school and beyond, which is what I usually do. Also, you need to hit the green button. You'll be surprised about how many calls I get. It's like, I'm only seeing these data and not the data I'm doing filters for. You need, if that thing is green, you need to hit view report. It's going to pull up the report. We have 2 reports, and I'm going to show you kind of mock-ups of these. One is the 307 report, and that's the report that kind of shows your whole district and school. So it will show you this many kids have, this is the number of seniors and what we call SP students who are special education, but not in a particular grade in your school. That's usually a pretty small number. It will show you the number of kids who submitted, the number of kids who are incomplete, and the number of students who are found. When it says found, it means that student has completed FAFSA. And I'll show you all sorts of information. I'll show you that in a second. So that's kind of what the 307, again, school district level. If you click on the school that you're in, it will pick up something called a 607 report, and that's an actual list of students. So we'll show you everyone from Abel Abdemabi to Zane Zanone, A to Z. That's my little tribute to Duke basketball and using the alphabet. They really show you every student in your school and what their status is as far as FAFSA goes. And there's also a sheet in there that has unmatched kids. So it's kids who said they went to your school on the FAFSA, but we pull out an unmatched seat. And sometimes those will have kids that do go to your school, but you can do a match. It's a little complicated, but it allows you to really capture every student. Some of those students might have gone to your school in the past, and they just put your school down. So that's why they're showing up there. Again, about 2-3 times a week. The thing that gets confusing is you're gonna if you open the report today, you're gonna say, oh, 2024, 2025. It's like, nope. The way FAFSA works is based on the award year. So it's going to be talking about next year when they're actually getting the award. So for current seniors, it's going to be 25, 26. Sorry, this is the part where I lose my voice. Again, as submitted or not found. I'll show you that in a second. And some is complete or incomplete. So incomplete usually means, and this is good information because sometimes you're like, you didn't do a signature, you didn't put your social security number, or your name might have mismatched for some reason. I'll talk about that in a second when I show you the report. I'm going to show you this, but this is kind of what the school and district report looks like. Again, Abby Kelly's the first one in the alphabet, so it always shows up. And it will show you kind of this information here where it talks about the number of students either on a state or district level, how many submitted. So again, submitted means those people have submitted, hit that button that said go. Complete means that that student is completely complete. They're done. They can move on with their life. FAFSA is done for this year for them. Incomplete means that, again, they're missing something like a signature. I know I'm doing this twice just to remind people. And not found means, again, that we could not do a match. Usually that means they did not complete FAFSA. Sometimes it means they did FAFSA, but we couldn't match their name. And a lot of times the matching name has to do either with Hispanic or Asian naming conventions. Hispanic naming conventions tend to use with the E, the Y. So Fuentes y Torella instead of Fuentes, and they can't do the match because it doesn't look like the same name. And there are a lot of Asian students who also will have a name that they gave to school that tends to be a more Americanized. I'm drawing with a broad brush here. So they might be Kim, but their name might be an actual Korean name, a name in Korean when they did FAFSA. So you're not doing a complete match. Or the birth date. This is usually a very common one too. They use a European date convention where they flip the month and year. That also screws up the matches because we can only match on limited information. That's first, last name, middle name, date of birth, and usually school. So, we're doing the best we can with the matches. And again, it gets up 95% or so, but some kids will be missing. And if you're in a place like Lawrence or with a lot of Latino kids who might use that naming convention, you might have more missing than others. This is what the student level report, and I'll show you this in a second, looks like. Again, you're going to have your district name, your high school name, SACID, all that information. If the SACID is blue, it always means you can click on it and get a student profile report. For those of you who have seen this, so you can see all sorts of information about that student. We've also added this tool, demographic information. And this demographic information really, I think, helps you to kind of look at it and make sure that you're being equitable in your FAFSA completion services to particular populations. Lots of different here. There'll also be a completion date. And so you can see all the information there. So great amounts of information here that will be rolling in pretty soon. I'm going to do this and show you the tool just because it's easier for me to switch from the PowerPoint to going to Chrome. So Alex said they did FAFSA, and this is going to happen to you. In a few weeks, you're going to chase down the student, who I call Alex, and you'll say, you said you completed FAFSA, but I'm not seeing you here. The next thing you want to do is you might want to jump down to the unmatched file. Again, you can look at this unmatched file. And like, okay, Alex, you're right there. I see what happened. You put Alexandra instead of Alexandria, or Matos y Ramos instead of Matos, or the date you usually see. It's like, okay, you're all set. So sometimes you can download all these tools into Excel. And sometimes it's easier just to, go old school, bring out your marker and highlighter and just say, who are the kids I have to talk to? Check those kids off, and then, you've done your due diligence. So it's just remember that some kids will say they did it. Sometimes there'll be a time delay. If they said they did it, or you sat down and did it with them, check that unmatched list and you're usually going to find them. There's no way to really fix that unmatched list. There's like 70,000 high school kids, and they're not letting Niall go through and talk to Jen Bullard and Drake it and fix the sheet. So that'll be an issue for many of you. I'm going to show you the tool now. Happy to stop for any questions or concerns. I know I talk fast. Share Niall.
We don't have any open questions at this time, Niall.
I must be a genius.
Very, very thorough.
Yeah. All right, so this is the Edwin training environment. Did everyone see this, Jen? And this, maybe I'll go back to, right, let's see if I can really speed this up.
Yep.
All right, so here's where I went into Edwin Analytics. It's going to look something like this. It's not exactly the same because training environment's older and looks a little bit different, but the data is mostly the same. I tend to look at this because I'm like, okay, what am I looking for? And I go to high school and beyond. Just so you know, post-secondary success, and this has nothing to do with FAFSA, but just to show you, we'll give you reports that tell you where your kids went to college. So as those of you who haven't used this tool, this report will tell you where your kids, as late as 2023, we don't have 2024 in here yet, went to college. So this is helpful. It is also not the FAFSA report, but that's in success because that's still kind of after something happens. I go to post-secondary readiness, and you can see here the CR 307 and CR 607 are the ones that are we're going to talk about today and are FAFSA related. And again, you can always go to the search box in the upper right and just search for FAFSA, and these will come up. I'm going to show you the 307. And again, you have to pardon me because this is a training environment. It has sort of real data, but not really, because we need to protect student privacy. So yeah, there's no such thing as high EcoDIS high in the Commonwealth, but this will give you an example. So this is usually this would have a state and a district. Of course, you can't see where I'm pointing. You should have a state and district number, right? And we saw in like the screenshot that will tell you kind of the number of students who have submitted, how many of those are complete, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In this case, obviously, this is supposed to be early in this year. It's a not found, which is the students who have not done FAFSA is pretty high. But let's just pick on average high. So anytime you see this blue link, it's magic in Edwin. It means you can go somewhere else. So I want to look at, I'm working with the whole district. I have 4 high schools or whatever. I pick a particular high school, and again, it takes a little time for this whole thing to come up. The view report thing, if that was green, seeing the upper right-hand side, would be what you'd have to hit. But this is what the data looks like, except all these fields will be filled up. It's going to give you your district code, your high school code, the name of the student, the SACID. I'm going to show you something SACID in a second. Date of birth, all the demographic information you need. And again, the key piece, FAFSA completion. FAFSA completion can change from time to time. There are kids who complete it, then they go in and say, "Oh, I made a mistake." So it's hard to do this longitudinally during the year. Like if your whole thing is, I want to see how many kids complete it in December. Some of those students, a small number, will go back in and they'll redo it, and the redo will be the latest date. In here, you'll see that they submitted FAFSA, yes. What's the status? In this case, complete. Where it says detail here, all the way to the right, that's going to be if it's incomplete. See if there are any incomplete. I don't think there's any incomplete in this file. Unfortunately, there's not. That will give you an idea of what they're missing. So we'll see something like no signature, etc. The beauty of this too is if you go up to this export function up here, I think that's popping up. I strongly recommend that you download this into Excel. This allows you to kind of like, because sometimes if you're looking at 500 kids, it's just mind blowing to you. So if you can kind of look at the list and like, okay, I can filter out all the ones that are complete, like because they're already done. It really allows you to do some work locally on what it looks like. If you are having problems with this tool or something seems really kooky, always use this contact us button. It will go to our IT folks, and if it is related to a program thing, it will probably come to me. If it's related to a data, technical, nerdy thing, they'll try to fix it or figure it out. Again, a lot of times if a student's going to not showing up, there will be an unmatched file at the bottom. So it's not in this one for some reason. But there will be an unmatched file which will have no demographics because we have no idea. We're not matching, we can't match it with Sims because we don't have information, but there will be a list of names, and usually you can look at it and be like, okay, you're right there. When people call me about this and we talk about it, usually I find the date of birth and like, yeah, it's the wrong date of birth. That's what happened here. It would be really helpful though, if you do see something that's a complete anomaly, that you hit that contact us button. I'm not sitting here doing the matches. These are people that are much more technically savvy than I am to let them know what's going on. And just on a side, looking at these blue SACIDs, if you have this level of access to here, you can always click on this blue SACID and see a lot more about the student. And I think a lot of you might have used this tool already. It's called the PR600. This gives you an actual report about you. Well, these are all these are all your students right now, your seniors. It'll give you a lot of information about that senior. So if you don't know that senior very well, I mean, you can usually get local records. Huh, nothing's showing up. I don't know why that's not showing up. Oh, Nile. So ordinarily it gives you a ton of information. There might be something wrong in the actual training environment. In a real environment, it's going to give you a list of kind of where that kid attended. So if it's a new student to you, you can see there. You can kind of look at the courses they took as they reported to the state, what MCAS scores are and things of that nature. I will try one more click unless it was just that one, but I think it might be about the training environment. I apologize, I don't use the training environment that much. I usually look at real kids. Yeah, there's something going on with the training environment. I apologize, but please take a look at that because I think it's a very helpful, even do a test on a kid to see what it looks like. And anyway, so that is my show for the day. Happy to take any questions.
Now, there was one question that came up from Anne. She said she can see her FAFSA completion report from 2023-24. When will the current 12th grader report be available?
I'm hoping, I was saying that I know this is confusing. There is something called Mass Aid, which is where kind of all these data live after they come from the feds. There's data showing up there. So I know it's going to happen hopefully tomorrow or Friday. At the worst by next week. I was checking with Clantha from OSFA, and she said, like, yeah, there's data there and it should be flowing, and they're going to try to figure out what the issue is. I'm hoping it's tomorrow. I'm hoping it's later today. Usually magical stuff happens on Thursday nights. I know that sounds crazy, but we do a lot of updates there. So hopefully it's there tomorrow. If not Monday, if not, I'm going to start to be annoyed. But they are working hard and trying to get this done. This is IT function that they've tried to really make come faster. Once the data comes, it's just going to flow really fast. So I beg your take your grace and I beg your what do they call it, patience. on this as we try to get it rolling. And I was hoping to, I was annoyed this morning I wasn't there. I'm not going to lie, because I was hoping to be all impressive, and you know, usually a lot of times people from state let you down, and I didn't want to be that guy. But here I am again. So hopefully, really quickly in the next couple days, and you'll be able to see it, start to chase down kids. We might do. Thank you, Aaron. I'm not patient, so maybe you can give me some of your patience. So hopefully we can, do other sessions like this. I'm happy to. We've worked with MASCA and the School Council Association in the past. They've been very generous in using their time, and happy to talk people through this, use this information. We all want more kids to complete FAFSA. We all want more kids to go to college. And with the money that's out there now compared to where it was 5 years ago, we need to really encourage, particularly our low-income students, that higher education is for you, and there is money there, and they have to do this step first, either FAFSA or MASFA. Just another note: we most likely will not do something like this for MASFA, for students, mostly undocumented families, particularly because the data is very sensitive, and particularly in this time, we want to make sure that some of that's going to be work, particularly if you're working in a district with a lot of students who are undocumented, of you chasing down those students individually and talking to them about this. So just so you know, there is a specific reason why that data tool has not been developed.
So great. Thank you, Nyal, for sharing all this valuable information. Are there any lingering questions? Doesn't look like we have any questions coming in. We'll be sending out a follow-up email with the recording and the slides and that link to the Evidence of Learning Forum. And just along the FAFSA support events, MEFA offers, we have a host of what we're calling FAFSA festivals. So those are virtual events. You can go on to mefa.org/events and sign up, register for those. And also FAFSA Day Mass is also offering virtual events, and those are going through April. So you can go to fafsaday.org, and you can point your students and families that need help with both the FAFSA and the MASFA. So we have a couple of experts joining us for those events that can help students with the MASFA, and also students that need help, or families that are Spanish speaking. So just a little plug for those events to help get students and families over the finish line with that. But this was so great. Thanks, Nyal.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Happy holidays, and thanks for all the work you're doing to get our kids ready for everything, life, college, and beyond. Not beyond life, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's someone else's work. All right. All right,
All
I'll
right,
talk to you later. Thank you.
Okay. Have a great day, everyone.